Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. Joe Flacco to the Broncos. John Elway is an incredible quarterback. He's an awful executive. He's the latest in a long line of people who were great at playing a sport and are awful at managing it. I don't think Joe Flacco is very much better than Case Keenum. I think that this continued quest for John Elway to find the right quarterback for the Broncos has been an abject failure. If John Elway had not been able to persuade Peyton Manning to come to Denver, think about how awful his tenure would have been. He hasn't been able to find, identify, and develop anyone. He got a Hall of Fame quarterback and sold him on the idea of coming to Denver. I don't see any great shakes that Joe Flacco is going to bring to bear in Denver. All right? I think, having said that the Broncos are actually in better position than the Ravens are, however, because I don't believe in any way imaginable that Lamar Jackson is prepared to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot more games like what happened against the Chargers. I think Lamar Jackson is the latest in a long line of athletic quarterbacks who can't actually make plays consistently from the pocket. Quarterbacks such as Tim Tebow, RG3, and Vince Young. And if you look at all three of those guys, do you know what they represented? They had like 8 or 10 or 12 or 16 game windows where they looked phenomenal, and then NFL defenses found out what they could do or what they couldn't do, and they absolutely shut them down. You have to, in the NFL, eventually develop the ability to drop back to pass and complete a pass on 3rd and 8. If you can't do that, then as electric as you have been as a running quarterback, eventually that gets shut down. You get lit up running the football. They shut off all your avenues. They find out what you can't do, and they expose you. So, a part of me thinks that if the Ravens were smart, they would draft another quarterback in the first round, whether it's Drew Lock, whether it's Dwayne Haskins, whether it's Will Grier, whether it's my boy from Duke, Daniel Jones, I think is his name, or whether it's Kyler Murray. You have to find a guy who can make plays from the pocket. And if you watch that playoff game against the Chargers, anyone who watched that playoff game against the Chargers, that's the steady diet that Lamar Jackson is going to get in year 2. So I think any of those quarterbacks in the first round, I don't believe in Lamar Jackson. I don't believe he's the answer. I think he's the latest in Tebow, Vince Young, and also RG3, guys who make plays for a short amount of time and then fall apart. I think it's going to be an ugly situation for the Ravens. I don't like the Broncos move, but I like Joe Flacco better than I do Lamar Jackson. The Lakers are dead, all right? The Lakers are dead. Nobody is saying it, at least not very loudly yet, but LeBron James going to the Lakers is starting to feel like Michael Jordan going to the Wizards. A part of the career that you're just going to pretend never happened. Everybody's sitting around saying, well, the Lakers are only 2.5 games out of the playoffs. That's the wrong way of thinking. The Lakers right now are 2.5 games out of the number 8 seed. They are 4 games out from the number 7 seed. It doesn't matter at all if the Lakers make the playoffs as the 8th seed, because they're going to get whipped, they're going to get wiped out. It's not going to be remotely close, okay? It is going to be a disaster if the Lakers make the playoffs and go head-to-head with the Warriors. I think a part of LeBron James would actually prepare not to make the playoffs so he doesn't get run as much as you would anticipate. Always guys out there like Brad here saying, it's February 13th. It's February 13th. Chill. It's week 2. Let me tell you something, Brad, because that's what you sound like when you say things like that. There are only 25 games left in the NBA regular season, right? The Lakers only have 25 games left. It's time to do math and prove that you have a brain. Right now, Brad, the Lakers are sitting at a game under 500, 4 games out of the number 7 spot in the Western Conference playoffs. In order to move higher, if they go 15-10 in the final 25, which is probably about as good as they're going to go, that would mean that in order to move into the 7th spot, they would need the Jazz to go 10-15. Or they would need the Spurs to go 10 and 15. It's not just about what you do. It's about how the teams all above you move as well. And that's assuming that you can even get to the number 8 spot and that the Kings don't continue to play really well in Sacramento. 2/3 of the NBA season is over. This is the first time LeBron James has had a losing record entering into the All-Star game since his rookie year with the Cavs. This is a bad situation for the Lakers. I don't think they're going to win a playoff series because they're not going to get to 7, which is important. If they get to 8, who cares? They're going to get run by the Warriors. This ain't a good spot to be in. So, Brad, it's only February 13th. You're an idiot. It matters, and it's only being February 13th is actually a big deal. Would you say in the NFL season it's only week 12? Because that's basically what you're saying right now when you're saying it's only February 13th. All right? Use your brain. Jimmy Haslam has pulled all of his advertisements, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, off of ESPN and the SEC network because of the Seth Wickersham article that went up that criticized his management style, that basically called him racist, that said that he was incompetent, and that touched on his pilot oil management when the company had a lot of charges filed for overbilling and fraudulent behavior. All right, here is the truth. I don't blame anybody here. I think ESPN has an obligation, if they have a story that's written by talented journalists, to run a story about the management of the Cleveland Browns and the challenges they have seen. I think Jimmy Haslam has millions of dollars to spend on advertising, and the likelihood that he's getting a substantial bump by using ESPN and the SEC network is probably not that high. It's an overall branding play. So if he's spending millions of dollars and he feels like he's being treated unfairly or that article unfairly treated him, I don't begrudge him for pulling out all of the ads that air on ESPN and the SEC network. The person who really has a reason to be upset here is the SEC network, because they didn't run this article at all, and they're getting tarred and feathered based on their associational connection to ESPN, which seems to me to be fairly unfair. Here is the big challenge that has never made sense. It's the fundamental challenge that exists for sports media companies that are effectively partners of the NFL and any other sports league. There's no way you can legitimately cover the league that you rely on making billions of dollars from. There's no way you can do that in a realistic fashion. Honestly, the ESPN news gathering organization should be a different company than ESPN, the television production company. And I'm not saying like the opinion-based programming makes a big deal. If I come on my show on Fox and I say, I think Jerry Jones trading for Amari Cooper was brilliant or it was a disaster, Jerry Jones understands that that's my job. But if I come on and I say that Jerry Jones, like what ESPN said about Haslam, if they say, look, he's an incompetent executive, here's 5,000 words we're researching and interviewing and doing an investigation on how incompetent he is, that's not something that flies. That's not something that makes sense from a business perspective. Look, I understand all the Big J journalists out there, and I started using the phrase Big J journalism years and years ago on my 3HL radio show. I said there's a difference between Big J journalism and people who have fun, right? I have fun talking about sports. By and large, I'm not in the business of catching people for doping, right? Like, I'm not going to catch anybody in the doping scandal. I'm not going to do a 10,000-word expose on Jimmy Haslam's management of that show, all right? This is, I think, beyond a shadow of a doubt, some people are saying, oh, you didn't come out. Go Google it, all right? I used this for years on radio, making fun of people who thought they were legitimate journalists covering real news, right? For years, I've been on this. I think it's funny. I am in the opinion of sports is fun, right? People out there who consider themselves to be legitimate journalists, I have always said, go cover something that matters, right? Go to Afghanistan and figure out whether we're spending our money well there. Don't embed yourself with the Cleveland Browns and try to figure out how the organization is being run, you're wasting your talents on many levels, all right? But I don't begrudge Jimmy Haslam here. I don't begrudge ESPN's decision. I don't begrudge anybody making the decision here, except I feel bad for the SEC network because they are getting destroyed here, losing millions and millions of dollars, having all their advertisements pulled, and it's a big deal because it's sometimes hard to sell regional network ads like they are for the SEC network. It is ridiculous and unfair. Colin does a good job making fun of Big J's too. We've talked about this. All right, big wins. Big wins I can barely get into here, but I don't blame Haslam, and I think this is the kind of story that you rarely hear. A lot of people who do big shows and bring in millions of dollars in advertising will sometimes have advertisers that are upset because of the topic choices that anybody goes with. People like me, we can't think about that because I'm on the creative side. You can't come to me and say, hey, you can't talk about X subject today because somebody's going to be mad. One of your advertisers is going to be mad. I try to be as honest as I can when I sit down with you every single day. That's what I do. That's why I tell you to go to mybookie.ag, use the code CLAY50, and also use the code OUTKICK. All right, a couple of other different things, all right? I believe that Kentucky got away with basket interference / goaltending, so everybody who's all worked up about the layup that LSU won on needs to be quiet. I'm not sure it was goaltending by LSU, but I am sure that Kentucky both put their hand up through the cylinder and smacked the backboard while the shot was in the air. That could have been called, all right? That could have easily been called. If you think my hair's a mess, it's potentially my hair's a mess because I took a nap today. And I haven't had time to actually look at it. I doubt that Pilot's going to sponsor Outkick, although they're welcome to reach out if they would like to sponsor Outkick. I don't think the Haslams like me either. And they don't have to like me. You know, if everybody liked me, it would probably be a sign that I'm not doing a very good job. I think the LSU shot should have been good because I think that Kentucky had interfered with the basket. Big win for LSU. LSU now has the inside track to win the SEC. Tennessee, initially it seemed like the game against Kentucky was going to be a really big one on Saturday. Now, if you were having to pick and you could only win one of those two games, I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, you want to beat LSU as opposed to Kentucky because Tennessee's going to beat Kentucky in Knoxville. They're not going to lose that game. And I think LSU got a massive win. Congrats to Will Wade. Congrats to the Bayou Bengals. That is a big-time win. All right? Finally, and we need to talk about this tomorrow. The Pac-12 network is a disaster. I'm going to spend more time on this tomorrow because I got to go get ready for my television show. Lock It In, airing on FS1, 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, 1:30 Pacific. All right? I encourage all of you to watch that show. Check it out. We have a good time. I got a bunch of gambling picks for you. But the Pac-12 network is a disaster. Big articles out. I tweeted out links to them as homework. Read those articles. We will talk about it tomorrow. My name is Clay Travis. Again, go to mybookie.ag, Clay50, Outkick. You get a 50% match on whatever money you deposit, up to $1,000. Mybookie.ag, Clay50, and Outkick. My name is Clay Travis. Kisses to all of you. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. And sometimes you do need to SBAP. Reminder, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Don't blow it. By the way, I'm going to Lipscomb Liberty tonight in Nashville. I will be at that game. I've got money on it. Go Bison. I've got Lipscomb -7. Lipscomb been a really good year in the A-Sun. I'm going to go check out their game tonight, taking a couple of my kids. That's where I'll be. Love you guys. SBAP, unless you need the DBAP. This is Outkick the Show on Fox Sports Radio in the morning from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, every afternoon here. Thanks again to MyBookie for being our presenting sponsor. I'll see you guys tomorrow. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See ya.